Today we discuss how Hinduism views creation. Now, before we enter this topic of creation, let me tell you a very interesting story, particularly a story that I find very funny. There was a Christian father, his name was M. Lamatre. He was also a physicist. He was a Christian father, but he was also a physicist and he was into astronomy. And he was working during the period that Einstein was at his peak. And he worked out certain equations on the basis of what Einstein had worked in his famous work on theory of relativity that concluded in E equal to mc square. It's not that there is only E equal to mc square in theory of relativity. There are lots of steps, and from those lots of steps, many more theories and many more works have come out. Now this Father Lemaitre, he was known as Monsieur M. Lemaitre. He worked out that there was a beginning of the universe which he called Big Bang. And he chanced to meet Einstein, one party or somewhere. And there he somehow got the attention of Einstein, because Einstein was world famous scientist and nobody knew Lemaitre. And he just told that, sir, I have worked a theory based on your theory of relativity. And according to that, the universe exploded from a small point and it's an expanding universe from that time. Now Einstein himself was a Jew. And his idea of creation, his idea of God, and all such theological ideas were based in Jewish traditions, what we get in Old Testament, the Bible. And according to the Bible, it's a static universe. God created this universe and He fixed things at different places, and things are working on each other according to that. So the universe is static, it's fixed. The way this table is fixed, the space, the earth, everything is fixed. And this earth is at the center of things, which of course Galileo changed. Galileo showed how earth is not at the center of things. But the idea that this universe is static, it's fixed, the way God had created, even a great person like Einstein firmly believed it. So Einstein told this physicist that your mathematics is correct, but your physics is abominable. That means what you are talking is ridiculous. But your mathematics is correct. That's a very interesting thing. That a great person like Einstein, he also says that mathematically you are correct, but the conclusions that come in physics based on that is completely rubbish. And then there was Mr. Hubble, famous now. You might have heard of Hubble telescope and all. Then he got hold of that theory and he worked out, and then finally he proved without any doubt that it's an expanding universe. And now we know that it's expanding universe, and based on these ideas of expanding universe, scientists have worked out various ideas like a black hole, Big Bang, and all those things. And this is, at present it is more or less an accepted theory that the universe began with a Big Bang. Now how many Big Bangs were there? These are different things, we are not getting into that. And it's, the ideas are not yet fully clear. And but the very interesting thing in physics about this Big Bang theory is that they say that the equations, the different kinds of equations, like there is first Newton's laws, then you have Einstein's theory of relativity, and then you have quantum mechanics. There are three layers of theories in physics. For the normal objects, Newtonian mechanics works. For larger distance, Einstein's theories work, and at very small level, it's the quantum laws that work. The interesting thing is, Once you go to the level of Big Bang, and once the universe becomes very, very, very small, it goes to the level of quantum. It's very small. The distance becomes so small that all equations collapse there. There cannot be any mathematical equation at that point. So physicists can never say what exactly happened when the universe was this small. They have fixed a very small distance, something like 10 to the power minus 28 centimeters, something like that. I don't remember the exact dimension. That point is known as singularity. Singularity means where equations collapse. In physics, the equations collapse and you cannot say what happened before that. What was happening? That means how creation really came into existence. How things were created. The ultimate question. You cannot push beyond a level. It stops. The equations themselves fail. You cannot discuss that. And yet, we are curious to know how we came here, how we are here, why we came here, what's the meaning of my existence, where we will go. So we find that physics is not very clear what exactly happens beyond a point. This is true of religion also. Religion also doesn't have any answer. In most cases you find it was God's will. God created this universe. How He created? By His mere will. Now when we say that God created by His mere will, what we basically mean to say that I don't have the answer. Every time we say that it is God's will. In whatever matter. In whatever matter when we say it's God's will. Why it happened like this, we say it's God's will. Basically it means I don't have the answer. It's not that God's will is working there. Why things went wrong? In Bengali we say Thakurer Ichha. Basically we mean to say one of the two things. That either I am cheating you, I want to cheat you. Or secondly, I don't have the answer. When we don't have the answer, we say it's God's will. So religion also say we don't have a very clear-cut answer. Physics also says we don't have a very clear-cut answer. But once the creation comes up to a level, after that they have a very clear answer. And religion also says the same thing. Once things come into being, after that we have a very clear answer. So these are two different approaches. But in either case, whether it be religion or it be physics, they don't have a very clear answer beyond a point. Once you start pushing back, as we shall see. So when the question of explaining the universe comes, when these ideas come, usually one of the two approaches are taken to explain the universe. One is top to below, and second is bottom to up. There are two different theories. In top to down below, this approach is usually taken by religions. So they say that God is there and God created the universe through this process, through that process, or by His mere will. There is some top and slowly it comes down. And then there is bottom to up. You take something which is below and from there you slowly start moving up. Now science always takes bottom to up theory. Always. So when we look at astrophysics, when we look at astronomy as taught by the physicists, we find that they take in the universe and slowly they try to push things back to the causal state. And that's how they slowly move towards the idea of expanding universe and Big Bang and things like that. So it is slowly resolving things back to its cause. So it is from bottom moving to the top. By top I mean the cause, or taking it back. Religion always comes from cause to the effect. Science always goes from effect to the cause. Now there is only one philosophy that truly discusses bottom to up theory. It has that approach of bottom to up approach. This is yoga philosophy. In yoga philosophy, in Raj Yoga, they do not go by top to down below. They go from bottom to top up. How? What the yogis teach when we will be discussing Raj Yoga, we will be discussing this. They take in some object, let's say this glass, here is a glass, they take this glass and they start meditating on this glass. So now no science is involved in it, because science would be interested in the composition of this glass, and then slowly they will go to steel, from steel to iron, from iron to atoms, and from atoms to electrons, protons, and from electrons, protons to quarks, energy, etc. Yogis do not take that approach. They say that, okay, let me meditate on this glass and let the glass itself reveal its structure. And once they start meditating, slowly they realize that this glass has two aspects. One, that is bound in time and space as this particular glass. And then second is glass which is universal. Once the focus has been a lot on this particular glass, from there slowly they move to glass in general. And once they have mastered this art, they move to the constituent particle of glass, not in the form of steel and iron, but in the form of tanmatras. Tanmatras basically mean, they say that we take in the universe through our five senses. So whatever the number of elements in this world, it does not matter. After all, when it comes to me, I will be taking in this universe through my eyes, ears, etc. only. So whether you have 100 elements or 108 elements or 1000 elements, ultimately I would be knowing this world and all those elements through these five senses only. Now here lies the major difference between science and religion. The goal of religion is to realize God. Goal of religion is to realize the nature of soul, Atman. It is not interested in explaining the universe. The universe is there, it accepts its reality, and from there it just wants to know how I can get out of this world. The idea of physics is to find unity in this universe by taking the entire universe. Now, religion also does exactly the same thing, but the unity of religion is at the level of spirituality, whereas the unity of physics lies at forces. They try to find out that single force from which every other force has evolved. So the very approach is different. Now, since there are five main elements, tanmatras, they are known as, you can say, subtle elements according to religion, which is known as Akash, then Vayu, Agni, fire, Jal, water, and earth. These are the five elements. It has nothing to do with the gross world that we see. They say that there are five kinds of sensation associated with every element that is there in the universe. And these five sensations we gather through our senses. So what yogis do, they start meditating on those sensations that compose this glass. The five constituents, the five elements, they combine in varying proportions to make this glass. And those very five elements, they have combined together to form my body and to form this microphone, this blackboard and this chalk, everything. So what they do is they focus on those tanmatras. And once they have mastered the tanmatras that make this glass, from there they focus on tanmatras alone. The pure tanmatras they focus. And once they have mastered that, they go further beyond and slowly they reach cosmic ego, cosmic mind, and from there slowly, they finally reach the level of unified energy. Now physics also tries to reach at the level of unified energy, but that is through a different process. Yoga also tries to reach the unified energy, but that is through an entirely different process. Physics stops there, at least till date. But yoga goes one step further back, and it transcends that state of mental condition where mind has become one with the universal energy. It transcends that and then sees that pure consciousness that is at the root of everything that is there in the universe. So this is from moving from bottom to top, or from the effect to the cause. Surprisingly, no Indian sage has ever contradicted this approach as taught by the yoga. Now, when we look at the different theories of creation in India, we find that at the root of all these theories of creation in India lies this bottom to top approach, from effect to the cause approach. But while teaching, they come from cause to effect. That is, they talk of God in the beginning, and from there they see things slowly evolving into this universe. This is at the root of creation. And when we look at all the theories of creation that there are in Hinduism, we can broadly classify them into two. And these two are impersonal form of creation and personalized form of creation. Impersonalized form of creation, that is, creation came out from Brahman, the impersonal. And the second is creation came out from God, that is, God who has a form, who has some qualities. Creation that came out from the formless, from Brahman, is best described in Nasadiya Suktam. It comes in Rig Veda. It is in the 10th book and 129th theme, 10.129. And the second one is Purusha Suktam. Once we complete Nasadiya Suktam, probably in this class, in the next class we shall take Purusha Suktam, which is a very important theory of creation in Hinduism. But more interestingly, Nasadiya Suktam has played a much more important role than Purusha Suktam. Because in Purusha Suktam we will see that how there is that God with form who performs yajna, and from there he creates everything that is there in the universe. In Nasadiya Sukta, everything is impersonal and creation is not at all described. The different species, different objects, these things are not described. It just discusses the principle of creation that there could have been. And everything goes in the form of question. And if we look at it very closely, we will see that there is a very famous theory of creation according to Sankhya philosophy that we will be discussing in one of our classes. That Sankhya theory of creation has somehow evolved from this Nasadiya Suktam. And the popular theory, like people say that in Hinduism there is Brahma who creates this universe, there is Vishnu who sustains this universe, and there is Shiva who destroys this universe. And the followers of Shiva will say that he alone creates, sustains and destroys. And the true follower of Vishnu will say the same thing. He creates, he sustains and he destroys. All these things are essentially rooted in Purusha Suktam. And in Vaishnava tradition, that's why Purusha Suktam is a must. Like every Vaishnava child has to memorize it and recite it every day. Nasadiya Suktam is very close to physics and very close to rationality. And its poetry is profound. And the questioning mind is also very profound. And one very interesting thing that we come across in Nasadiya Sukta is that usually it's said that if you read the history of Hinduism, they will say that Upanishads were kind of a revolt against Vedas. Because Vedas had lot of yajna, Vedas had lot of ritualism, so Upanishads came as a revolt. On the contrary, it's nothing like that. Upanishad did not spring up just like that. We find the elements of Upanishadic contemplation, the questioning, the thought process, the contemplation and going deeper into subjects that we find in Upanishads. Its seed is very clearly visible in Nasadiya Sukta. And Nasadiya Sukta is not a standalone hymn. There are many more hymns like that where such kind of questioning is there and where the sages are wondering at things and questioning things and wondering how it all came. So Nasadiya Suktam has a very, very important place, and Swami Vivekananda, he had a special penchant for Nasadiya Suktam, both for its theory and also for its poetry. And Mr. Tesla, who was one of the greatest electrical engineers of his time, and also he had his hands in practically every branch of physics when Swamiji was in America. And Mr. Tesla used to come to listen to Swamiji, and Swamiji used to explain the ideas of Akash and Prana. Prana means cosmic energy, Akash means cosmic matter, the smallest unit of matter, and how energy works on matter, and then how the universe evolves. And Tesla used to come and listen to Swamiji's talks regularly, and then Tesla became friendly with Swamiji, and he told Swamiji that he can work out a mathematical theory based on what Swamiji has been discussing. And Swamiji had essentially been discussing from Nasadiya Suktam. So for the devotees of the Ramakrishna mission, Nasadiya Sukta has a very important significance. Of course, Tesla could not work out that mathematical theory, at least not that we know of. But when we come across E equal to mc square in Einstein's equations, somewhere you feel that although that's a mathematical equation E equal to mc square, but as far as philosophy is concerned, somewhere you find it's a distant echo in this Nasadiya Suktam. So that's a very brief introduction of what Nasadiya Suktam is about. Now, before we start discussing Nasadiya Sukta, let us know the difference between a fundamental concept between one God and Advait. Quite often people think that Advait means one, there is one. The moment we say that there is one, it becomes one God. Now when Muslims say Allah is the God, they are talking about one God. Or when Christians talk about God the Father, they are talking about one God. Now when you are talking about Advaita, one, so how is Advaita different from, say, Vishnu is God or Kali is God? How is it different? Actually, most people confuse between Advaita and monotheism. There is a difference between monotheism or monism and Advaita. Advaita basically means non-dual. Non-dual basically means there is no two. When you say that there is no two, what does it imply? Does it imply that it is one? No, it does not. Because had it been one, they would have told that it is one. It does not say it is one. Actually, that's why it's so difficult to conceptualize Advaita. There is no two or Dvaita. It does not say Ekam. For example, it says Ekam Sad Vipra Bodha Vadanti. There is one, and sages call it variously. In Advaita, they are not calling it Ekam, or they are not calling it Ekeshwar Vag. They are calling it Advaita, not Dvaita. Nasadiya Suktam takes the stand of Advaita. In Ekeshwar Vag, when there is one God, it will very clearly say, as in Purusha Suktam, there is one God and creation flows from there. Here it will say that what is there cannot be said. Does it exist? You cannot say that. And it does not exist, you cannot say that. To illustrate, I will give you one example from Sri Ramakrishna's Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Once he was explaining the idea of Advaita to Narendranath, who became Swami Vivekananda, and says, there are 10 pots filled with water and sun is getting reflected. In total, how many suns are there? 10 below and 1 above. It's 11. And once you start breaking the pots, ultimately one pot remains. So how many suns are there? So 1 below in the reflected sun and 1 above the actual sun. That means 2. And then Sri Ramakrishna asks Swami Vivekananda, the last pot is broken, how many suns are there? Swamiji says 1. Thakur says, no, what remains cannot be said. When I was young, I could never understand the answer. It took me a long time to realize what he's talking. This is the difference between one God and Advaita. If you say that there is one sun, that means you need to have a mind. You need to have a mind to know that sun. But because there is nothing to know that, how can you say that there is one? Because to say one, there has to be a second. So there can never be one. But it's a very simple argument. One very simple argument. You just think and you will understand. There can never be one. Because to know one, there has to be another mind. And if there is no mind to know, how can you say that there is one? It's something like, let's say, there is one football match between, say, Brazil and Argentina. Match began and it was a drawn game. What is the score? 0-0. And the match did not begin, the match was cancelled. Now what is the score? No, it is not 0, 0. Match never took place. And that's why they say that they have, in mathematics they have an expression said phi, null set. Phi is not 0. There is a difference between 0 and phi. That null set and 0, these are two different things. To understand Advaita, we need to have a little sharp intellect. Advaita is not one. Advaita does not talk of monism. Advaita does not mean that there is some one single reality. It means that whatever is there cannot be described and nor can it be grasped. That's why Sri Ramakrishna says that he is beyond 1 and 2. He is beyond 0. At the same time, on the positive side, he is 1, he is 2, and he is many more. Now, it's very difficult. These ideas are very difficult to grasp. See, whatever is cannot be expressed through words. Mind cannot grasp it. It can only be intuitively realized. During meditation, the depth of meditation, you can realize the truth. And once you realize the truth, you know that there is something. And yet you cannot express. Because it cannot be expressed effectively. The term is effectively. You cannot say whether it is 1 or it is 2 or it is 0 or it is existence or it is non-existent. Because your own mind gets totally merged with that oneness. Because your mind, ultimate instrument of knowledge is the mind. And the mind itself has merged. So who will say what remains there? There is no way of saying. That's why when the Buddhist philosophers say it's shunya, they are absolutely correct. Because you cannot describe it. And when Semitic religion people say it's one God, maybe they are correct. And when we say that it's Advaita, perfectly correct. If you say it's Vishnu, perfectly correct. But Advaita, when we say Advaita, non-dual state, this is the best expression of God. There can never be a better expression of God as we come across in Nasadiya Suktam, first mantra where it says, Na sadasit, no sadasit, tadanim nasit rajo na vyoma paroyat. This is Rig Veda, 10th book and 129th hymn, Sukta. Sukta means collection of different prayers, different mantras. Kim avarivaha kasya sharman amba kimasit gahanam gaviram. I have taken the translation by Swamiji. Swami Vivekananda was so fascinated by Nasadiya Suktam that he had made an independent translation of Nasadiya Suktam. Although this Nasadiya Suktam has been translated by many, and even scholars like Griffith, like in sacred books of the East, their translations are there. So more or less I have taken from Swamiji, and wherever ideas are not absolutely clear for the students, I have slightly changed the words. It says, neither existence nor non-existence was there. Swamiji had written it as a free flow poetry to make it more graspable. I made it in simpler words. Neither existence nor non-existence was there. Na asat asit. The first term is no asat asit, and then no sat asit. Neither there was non-being, non-existence, and nor there was existence. And tadanim nasit rajo. Raja basically means particles, and according to Yaska, who has given meaning to Vedic words, Raja also means the different spheres of existence. Because after all, wherever there is existence, there is matter. And because matter's finest particle is known as Raja. And Raja Gun, Tamogun, Sattvagun, there also Raja means particles that have energy. So Raja basically means particle and the different spheres are made up of these particles. So Raja means different spheres. Or it can also mean particles. So it says neither matter and nor space around, because as we were discussing physics, we were discussing there is an expanding universe. What is the meaning of expanding universe? When we think of expanding universe, we think as if there is a sphere and it is expanding. Now, it is expanding where? Where does the space expand? Because every time we think of expanding, we think of, say for example, balloon is expanding. Where does balloon expand? It expands in space. But we are talking about expanding space. Space itself is expanding. So it is expanding where? It doesn't make any sense. It is counterintuitive. It's not possible for us to understand. For example, when you're standing on the surface of Earth, where is the center of the universe? Sorry, where is the center of Earth? Center of Earth is where you are standing. Why? Because wherever you stand, you will see that if you look at the globe, you will see that it is sloping. Wherever you stand, just turn the globe around and wherever you stand, you will see that globe sloping below. And just imagine, there is a huge space, plain land, and you are standing alone. And you can see that the space, high sky, is bending around you. And as you move, you feel that that bending is moving with you. And then you feel you are the center of the universe because the sky bends around you. And there is somebody else, your friend standing maybe at a kilometer, you can take a cell phone. And you say that, look, sky is bending around me. And he will say, yes, but sky is bending around me too. And you say that you see, earth slopes below my feet. This is a perfect. And the earth slopes below my feet too. There is no center of this earth as far as surface is concerned, nor there is center of any universe. The question of edge of the universe does not arise. For example, we are standing here on this earth. Do we talk of edge of earth? No. And yet we are at the edge of the earth. So, these are counterintuitive ideas, so difficult to understand. So it says, there was no space. Like as matter expands, as matter is created, space is created. If there is no matter, there is no space. Matter is space. Matter itself is space. And that's why the term in Sanskrit is Akash. Akash means the finest element, the finest matter. Akash also means sky, the space. Because if there is no matter, there is no sky, there is no space. Space and matter, these are same. Absolutely same. So, now there is neither matter, there is no space. It's not that matter is contained in space. The finest material of, finest particle of matter, that itself is space. Now there is no space, there is no matter. So, kim avari vaha? What will cover it? Covering is always meant for something. Now if there is no something, where comes the question of covering? Oh, it's a profound philosophy. For example, there is a seed, and a seed is covered by its skin, or whatever term you might use. Now if there is no seed as such, if there is no seed, then what would be the meaning of covering? You cannot call it covering anymore. Now there is no earth and there is no space. So what will cover it? For example, we are covered by, say, I am covered by this piece of cloth, and my piece of cloth is covered by the space around me, and this space is covered in the entire universe. But supposing there is nothing, then who will cover what? The very idea of covering does not arise then. That's what it says. Kim avari vaha. And kuha kasya sharman, where it was, and who protected it? Ambah kimasit gahanam gaviram. So, was there the causal material? Amba means water, and this idea comes repeatedly in the Vedas, and it was later taken by the Puranas. But there was that causal water. Amba basically means water, but it doesn't mean water of this ocean. So ocean is one name of the source of creation. It basically means karana. Karana means cause, causal. So that huge causal state from where all the effects come out. And karan means, another name for karan is water, and that's why Karan, Salil, Amba, all these terms are used in the Vedas, that from the great cause flowed out the effect. So he said, was there this great cause from which everything flowed out? Amba kimasit gahanam gaviram. Was there that great cause, unfathomable great cause? The answer is, we don't have any answer. Now we come back to the first term. It says, na sadasit, no sadasit. It's a very, very, very famous expression. In the beginning, there was no non-existence and there was no existence. The actual term in Sanskrit is bhava, abhava. Bhava means existence, to be. Abhava means not to be. The famous Shakespeare's to be or not to be. Not exactly in that sense. But the state of being and the state of non-being. Now the state of being, if a thing exists, it is grasped through 5 senses. Once you can grasp an object, for example, here is this pen, and I can grasp this pen with any of these my 5 senses. And that's how I know about its existence. And sometimes, there is that famous school of thought in physics, rationalism. Rationalism says whatever I can check through my 5 senses, that alone exists. And later on they added logical rationalism. And then there is idealism. It's something like, if a fruit falls in a forest and there is nobody to see that fruit fall, does the fruit fall? So rationalists will say, this question does not arise, because since no one saw it, the fruit never fell. There is the rationalists. And the realists will say, whether you are watching it or not, whether anybody watched it or not, the fruit fell. And the idealists, these are basically the 3 major philosophies: rationalists, realists, and idealists. Rationalists will say that I will accept only what my 5 senses say. Realists will say that irrespective of whether your senses work or not, things happen. And idealists will say, they try to combine these two. They say that I may not be there, no one else was there to watch it, but God was watching it. So it happened. So it takes the idea of happening, that means there is somebody to watch, but that somebody to watch is God. But the rationalists do not accept God. And you will be surprised to know that this present day science suffered a lot purely because of the rationalist approach. And especially the French scientists, they were a great stickler to rationalism. And the rationalism harmed science much more than it did good. And it was much later that people started talking about mathematical rationalism, logical rationalism they call. For example, nobody has seen atom. So do you believe in atom or not? Because rationalists say that since I cannot see an atom, no question of accepting it. And when Einstein was struggling with his theory of relativity and all, at that period of time, people did not even accept that there are atoms. So they devised some kind of experiment to prove the existence of atom. And yet atom has never been seen. That's a very interesting thing. Atom can never be seen. So they devised experiments to show that atoms are there. Now when it comes to electrons, protons, etc., no question of rationalists accepting them. Because these things cannot be seen directly. They can be observed only indirectly and mathematically. And the rationalists never permitted any such thing that could not be observed directly. Now Sat essentially means rationalism. Things that can be observed through 5 senses, that is Sat. And Asat is also that sense of observation where you know the absence of something. If you know that this does not exist. Now they say that in our Hindu philosophy, Abhava. Abhava plays a very important role in philosophy. Abhava means non-existence. See, normally we know that if a thing does not exist, it means it's non-existent. But no, Hinduism does not say that. Hinduism say that consciousness is involved in observation, positive involved observation, and it is also positively involved in knowing the absence of a thing. And Indian philosophies have a very big logical fight over this issue. Whether abhav is a valid method of knowledge. Vedanta accepts abhav as a valid method of knowledge. For example, supposing the question comes, is there an elephant on this stage? You will say, oh, it's not there. So how do you know it? Because it's not there. I am seeing things, but I am not seeing that elephant. When you say that I don't see an elephant, that means you are basically saying that there is some kind of awareness, some kind of consciousness involved with not knowing. It's beautifully explained in English. Sometimes say that he was conspicuous by his absence. There was a party and someone very important who was supposed to be there did not attend. And then you say that that person was conspicuous by absence. Conspicuous. Conspicuous is always used in the sense of something that is visible. But here absence is visible. So asat is a positive idea of non-existence. Now imagine that state when creation has not yet come, creation has not yet started. So what is there? Whatever is there, you will say that it is Sat. God is there. If there is nobody, then there is Sat. I mean, God is there. There is no creation, but there has to be God. It says, Na Sat Asit. Whatever was there was nobody to observe it. And he was not observable through five senses because there were no senses. So you cannot say that it was Sat. It was existent, you cannot say that. Then you must say that it was Asat. No, you cannot say it was Asat. Because Asat means non-existence. And non-existence also requires that consciousness, that the feeling of absence. And since there was no one, this feeling of absence was also not there. And now when you talk of God, when we talk of Brahman, that super consciousness, when we talk of Atman, we can never say positively that it exists because it cannot be known through senses. Nor can we say that it is non-existence. Why? Because it can be known through the words of the masters and the words of the scriptures. So what is true of what happened before creation, same thing continues even today. Can you say that God exists? Only a fool will say that God exists because existence requires knowledge through five senses and God can never be known through those five senses. That means God does not exist. No, you cannot say. Why? Because in non-existence also you require that consciousness of negation, the consciousness associated with absence. That consciousness is also missing. So you cannot say that God exists, nor can you say that God does not exist. So how is God known? It's known through meditation in that intuitive state. That's why it's known as paravidya. And here they will discuss that. That sages, when they meditate, they find that relationship. And that knowledge, that intuitive knowledge, it is not the knowledge of this world. And that's why it's known as aparoksha anubhuti, non-direct perception. Direct perception means seeing through your senses or knowing through arguments and logic. When you say indirect, no. Knowing indirectly means through some channel, through some other argument, some kind of logical conclusions. God cannot be known through that also. And yet, that knowledge is palpable. For example, we know that Sri Ramakrishna knew God, Jesus knew God. And so it's known as aparoksh anubhuti. Non-direct perception. Perception is there, but it is non-direct. Now coming back, when the creation, just imagine this creation is there. Here is this play of matter, play of energy, and play of space, and all these things are in this huge space. And in this huge space, everything is acting on everything else. And all these things have flowed out from that great cause, that karana, that causal waters. That causal water. That's why in the Vaishnava tradition, Lord Vishnu is depicted as sleeping on a huge snake in that ocean. It's not that Lord is sleeping anywhere in the ocean. Basically it means to say that there is that Lord. He is the master of the causal waters. That cause from which every effect flows out. And this, the entire process of creation, the entire philosophy of creation is put in the first mantra of this hymn. Nasadasit, no sadasit, tadanim naasit, rajo, no vyoma para. So first it says that whatever was, because creation had not yet come, whatever was neither sat nor it was asat. You cannot say that it existed, nor you can say that it did not exist. And number two, from there it flows. Tadanim nasi rajo. Since there was no creation, there was no matter. Or you can say that there were no different spheres, because most commentators define rajo here as spheres, like heavens, different kind of heaven or patal lok. Nothing was there. And what to say of loka? The space in which these spheres would stay, even those spaces were missing. No vyoma paro yat. Paro basically means superior, further cause. So neither there was these spheres and nor there was the space that contained them. So kim avari vaha. This entire thing, what covered it? If there was nothing, what covered it? Basically it means nothing covered it. There was no covering, because everything is covering everything else. There was no covering because there was nothing to be covered. And kuhakasya sharman. Sharman means welfare. For whose welfare it was there? For no one's, because there was no one. No question of welfare comes. No question of good comes. Because see, every time we talk about creation, the question comes, what good this creation serves? What purpose this creation serves? At that point of time, when na asat asit, Nasadiya Suktam is from that first word, na asat asit, from that Nasadiya, na asat. So from na asat it has come Nasadiya. So it says that for whose welfare? For no one's welfare. Why for no one's welfare? Because there was no one. Because there is no one, so it's for the welfare of no one. And Amna Kimasit Gahanam Gaviram, the deepest cause, the cause of waters. No, it was also not there. Nothing was there. The whole thing is in the form of question. Was it there? Was it there? It implies it was not, it was not. So that is the first mantra. That the universe that we see around, we see certain things and we find certain things missing from here. We find objects are there and we find objects are in the space and we find that everything is covering everything else. But at that time, what physicists call singularity in their term, at the moment of creation, God alone existed. But he could not be, we cannot say that he existed, nor we can say that he did not exist. There was nothing else. If there was the supreme conscious reality. But you cannot say that he existed, nor can you say that he did not exist. So the main idea about the first mantra is neither there was any kind of manifestation, nor can you say for sure that there was anything unmanifest, because there is no way of knowing it. From there we move over to the second mantra, which says, Na mrityur asid amritam na tarhi na ratrya anna asid praketah anidavatam sudhayat tadekam tasmat anyat na para kinchanasa. This is again a very profound mantra. I mean, you might feel, I feel so excited about it because the Nasadiya Sukta is one of the most profound philosophical hymns in the Vedas. And naturally, see, even Swamiji was excited about this mantra because a lot of scientific theories can come out of this, provided one works like that. And as far as philosophy is concerned, it's amazing. It says here, the last word is praketah. Na mrityurasid amritam na tarhi na ratrya anna asid praketah. Praket means sign. Sign means inkling, even the slightest suggestion. Even the slightest suggestion. There is not the slightest suggestion of death. Because world is characterized by death. In this world, there is nothing sure. We are not sure of anything in this world, but we are sure of death. The universe is characterized only if you have to characterize this world, if you have to say one single characteristic of this world, it is death. Death is the only surety in this universe. Universe was not there and there was no death. The moment you say na mrityu asit, it means there was amrita. Immortality was there. No, you cannot say, because immortality and mortality, these are twin terms, these are dual terms, these signify duality. We were just now discussing Advaita. The opposite of Advaita is Dvaita. Dvaita means two. The moment you come out of a Dvaita state, there is Dvaita. Every time you talk of one term, there will always be the second term. So, because there was no universe, and universe is always characterized by death, there was no death. Does it imply immortality? No. Because there is no death, so there was no immortality. Not only that they were not there was not even a sign of that, not an iota of that, not a slightest inkling of it, nothing. Natarhi naratryan. At that time, death was not then, nor was then there aught immortal. There was no sign of days and nights. Because there was no divider. There should be divider between night and day. It's a very cruel joke. I shouldn't be making this. But then I really, when I heard, I found this joke very funny. In Bible we hear that on the first day God created this, on the second day He created this, on the third day He created this, and towards last He says He created sun and moon. So somebody asked, since sun was not there, how did He distinguish between day and night? It's a very simple question. And of course commentators have answers to this, but it's the most common sense question. But okay, fine. Because it's the sun, it is through sun that we know. When sun rises, we know it's a day. When sun sets, it's night. And sun rises again, there is a fresh day. Now there is no sun, because sun was created on much later. So how did he know that this is day 1 and this is day 2? That's the problem. Time is born when space is created. That's why it's known as space-time duality. No, you won't believe that although Einstein came up with space-time continuum, but this idea was always there in India with the Hindus, that Kali is the mother of the universe. She is the ultimate, and she dwells with Kala, time. So time and creation, they are one and the same thing, they are indistinguishable. The moment there is creation, there is time. And now we know in physics also, creation and time. Time is born when creation takes place. This idea has been there in Hinduism since the very beginning. There never was that the time was created much later. Although in Old Testament you find it other way around, and of course they have explanations to it, but that's what we get from the common sense. It says, there is no divider. There has to be a divider who will say that this is day and this is night. For example, the way we were discussing that abandoned match in which there was no game was there, and we call the score was 5. Just imagine that way. Somebody is living on the surface of sun or deep inside sun where there is always light. Here on this earth we know that now it is day and now it is night. It's because of sunlight. Now somebody who is living in the sun, for him there is no day, there is no night. It doesn't make any sense. The divider is not there. The dividing idea, for example, they say that in Bengali, for a blind person there is no night. There is no dividing thing. Because you cannot sense light. That's why you cannot say that whether it's day or night. Same with the sun. If you are living on the sun, there is no night, no day. Because the divider is not there. Here divider is not there. There is no creation, there is no duality. So, namrityu asit amritam natari naratya asit anna asit praketa. Forget about their existence, there was not even the slightest inkling of it. It's ruled out. No duality of any kind. Neither life was there, nor death was there, nor mortality was there, nor immortality was there, and nor there was day, nor there was night, nothing. No divider of any kind. And Anidavatam, this is one of those profound philosophical words used in Nasadiya Suktam. Anidavatam. Basically it means Anid Avatam. That Avatam is breathless. That means there is no movement when we breathe. Air flows. And there was no breathing. That means there was no energy of any kind. Absolutely no movement of energy. No energy. It says that Anidvatam. This that there was that supreme consciousness in which there was no movement of any kind. What that was, the term used here is Anit. Anit is that one thing. What was that one thing? Commentators say that it was that Supreme Self Brahman, and it was in its own nature, with its Prakriti. And it was breathless. That means there was no movement of any kind. Swadhaya tadekam. Swa means that idea of I-ness, swa, idea of I-ness. The sense of I-ness. And dha means to hold. So swadha means that which holds oneself. So it says, Anidavatam swadhaya tadekam. That one thing, whatever was there, it was breathless. There was no movement of any kind. There was no movement of energy of any kind. And it was swadhaya. It was holding itself by itself. There was no energy, there was no movement, it was holding itself by itself. This signifies that the famous concept that Brahman and Prakriti, they stay together. Sri Ramakrishna used to have these examples that there is snake and there is the movement of the snake, or there is fire and there is its burning power. Fire and burning power, they are inseparable, they are always together. Or there is milk, there is its whiteness. These are together. You cannot distinguish, you cannot separate fire and its burning power. They are always together. Burning power means fire, and fire means burning power. Just like that, there is Brahma and Prakriti. When there is no movement, when there is no creation, Brahman and Prakriti, they are lost as one. But mind it, it's not two. It's not two. It's not male-female principle lying together. It's Swadaya. That is its nature. That's its very nature. And that's why the term repeated is Nasadasit, Nasadasit. The moment there are two, it will be known as there are two. It does not even talk of one. It just talks of non-dual. Whatever that was, it held itself by the power of itself. Anidvatam. There was no movement of any kind because this world, this creation is characterized by energy. Energy is characterized by motion. There was neither motion, there was no energy. The slightest motion, the soft motion that is there in breathing, no, even that was not there. And how it was living? Swadaya, by the power of itself. It was. And tadekam tasmat anyat na para kinchanasa. Apart from it, nothing was there whatsoever. So there was that supreme reality. Why now they are talking? See, initially they said whatever was non-existent, was not existent, nor it was non-existent. From there you might conclude that okay, it was zero, but no, it was not zero. So slowly, the whole thing is moving towards creation. That supreme reality is now moving towards creation. So now the sages are slowly taking you step by step. First they put you at the last stage, the ultimate stage, when at the time of nothingness, when there is the total destruction, pralaya, nothing exists. It says that it appears as if creation came out from nothingness, but no, it did not come out from nothingness. There was this. You cannot say that it existed, nor you can say it did not exist, and yet it was. And exactly, Sri Ramakrishna repeatedly says that in that state of samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi, that ultimate state of non-dual consciousness, you cannot say anything. You cannot say whether it exists, whether it does not exist. He says in Bengali, ki ache mukhe bola jay na. Whatever is cannot be spoken in words. That is what it's saying, and yet it is there. And how it is there? Holding itself by itself. Swadaya. So the terms used in various philosophical systems in India is Prakriti, Maya, Shakti. Prakriti is often used by Sankhya philosophy, Maya is used by Vedantins, and Shakti is used by Shakti worshippers in Tantra. And various schools of thoughts, they use different terms to denote that power. For example, Shiva tradition talks of Shiva Shakti traditions. And Vaishnava, they say Shri and Vaishnava. That Vishnu is there and Shri is there. Shri is that power of Vishnu. And Nasadiya Suktam talks of the same thing as Swadaya. Swadaya is the best term that can be used because although every other word, whether you call it Prakriti or you call it Maya or whatever term you use, basically it will do the same thing, but here the poetry excels, and as it says, it was holding itself by itself. It was held by itself. So basically it means that there was nothing else. There was nothing else. There was God and there was God's power. And creation flows from there. This we will have to recover 2 mantras. 5 more mantras remain, and we'll cover it in the next class. Thank you.